Vandeham Shri Guru.
Nice to see you too. Cardinal. So today's topic is meditation paradigms. Please take a piece of paper and we'll all do a little exercise. And you can type in your iPhone if you want. Who writes nowadays, right? When you're ready, let me know. No, she's typing. Where's the iPhones? Alright. Ready? Get a paper and a pen or your phone. And type on your phone whatever. It is an exercise. Tomorrow is November 3rd. Okay. You wake up November 3rd. And you find a very special divine person standing in front of you. And they're carrying some news for you. The news is you will only live until Sunday night. That's the end of life. And you have the chance to ask whatever you want to ask for. What will you ask for? If it's not too private and you wouldn't mind, someone would like to share? Yeah, come on.
Give me opportunity to serve Krishna and devotees for the next 2 days. Please, you be with me for next 2 days, the Divine Personality. And also allow me to chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And the reason is Krishna will be pleased, of course. And also I may be able to remember Krishna for most of the time during my last moments in this body.
Okay. Anyone else? Amya.
Please help me to get the mercy of Krishna for one day before I leave, so that I can get the maximum benefit of this human form of life. If I have another birth, please take me more closer to Krishna.
Someone else?
Sneha had her hands up.
Oh, Sneha had hands up. Wow, both hands up? That's what happens when you have 2 more days to you have to raise both your hands. Right. Yeah.
I didn't exactly write much, but
It's all right. It's a difficult news. So it takes time to write.
will Krishna help me come back to him if I spend all this time sincerely chanting? Because there are actually 2 reasons. One is that I'm actually very afraid of falling down in Go-Yoga, and second, there are actually many things that I'm grateful for because of Krishna's mercy. And there was actually one thing that happened this morning, if it's okay to share it. My sister was very angry this morning, and she was driving me and my brother to the train station, and she is lost of her senses and was driving recklessly. And at that time I was really afraid for my life, and although like the first person I thought of was my mom at first, I ended up remembering Krishna and just immediately started chanting. So actually learned quite a few things from that.
Well, thank you for sharing. Visibly, it's not the easiest experiences so far, but thank you for sharing. So, Karno? You should be walking because in your name it says no car for you. Car not.
Yes, those last days I've been worried about the world. Like if
You've been worried about the world.
yes, like if there's a better tomorrow, like if there's a better tomorrow for me, for others. So I like usually I used to do it very optimistic, but nowadays I'm kind of pessimistic. Probably I would ask like if there's a better tomorrow. I would ask also about the truth. What is the truth?
What is the truth?
Is there the truth? You know, because I don't know. And nowadays, like I'm very reluctant about the idea there is a God. You know,
You're reluctant that
yes,
there is an idea that there is a God.
about God. Like usually I'm very spiritual, but nowadays like I've been asking I got doubt about that. So I would ask him like if there's a God, if God really exists, or just our intelligence are playing us some tricks.
How long have you been in America?
5 years.
It does it to people like that. Okay. Your name, please.
Mohit.
Mohit.
Yeah.
Alright. Speak up loudly so Amina and Ed can hear as well.
I would wish for a care-based anarchy, kind of. I'd love to say that the reason for this wish is selflessness, but the reason is quite selfish. I would simply enjoy to live in a society that doesn't turn to legislation out of fear of human nature. Every action would be made with the least possible damage caused, and there'd be no illusions of those actions inflicting no damage at all. Yeah.
Amina?
I couldn't
Thank
really
you for
hear
sharing.
the question. So am I correct that you're saying that we have a few days to live? and
Sunday night.
We have one question to ask. Is that correct?
I said one and then I said if you have a list you can add, but I said
Oh.
you have one wish to make. What wish would you
Oh, it's a
make?
wish, not a question.
Yeah, wish.
Oh, okay. Well, I have a question. I guess it's kind of a wish.
We call it a squish. Wish.
Well, I can change
Wish.
it into wish. Can you, well, I would wish to make the most positive, lasting impact for others before I die. That's all.
Okay. Anyone else? Yeah.
So I had one wish. I would ask for God's perspective of creation, that is omniscient, that is knowledge of all things and all times, past, present, and future.
Hold on. You would ask for what is omniscience? Or you would ask to
No.
become omniscient?
Yes, I would ask God to give me His perspective of creation.
Ah,
Yes.
okay. What if you would say read the Bhagavad Gita? I already gave it. What would you say?
No, that is description of the experience. I want the experience itself.
You want the experience itself.
Yes.
That is also there, okay. 11th chapter. Alright? Okay, good. Why is it important to you? No, why we asked why. The second part was the why behind. Amina, why would you like to ask to leave behind a very lasting impression? Impact.
It's not about like necessarily me having a legacy, but improving life for other people, because that's I mean that's to me that's very important is the future and living in the present, but looking out for other people and how they're going to live.
Okay. Yes, I know that this is important for you. You said.
So according to me, human life is a quest for knowledge and answers. And so if I have this few days to live and I have an opportunity to get answers, I or knowledge rather. So I would take
So
that up.
that piece of knowledge is important for you. God's perspective on creation.
Yes.
Why would you ask for a
Anarchy kind of
anarchy? What was the phrase that you used?
care-based.
Care-based anarchy.
Because I just keep on thinking that would be the funnest society to live in. Because there would the idea of simply an anarchy is the main flaw in that is that there'll be distrust within human society, and hence there won't be harmony as such. And in a care-based anarchy where it's not a complete anarchy, but there is one rule that's based on simple trusting of others.
Isn't that against the whole meaning of anarchy?
Yes, it is. That's why it's not exactly an anarchy. It's just one rule there is. And once again, if it's taken as a dogmatic rule, then it will not work, because people won't understand what trust is, and hence if they don't understand it, they won't trust. So even if they keep on saying that I'm doing this in the name of trust, they won't be actually doing it in the name of trust, because they will have illusions of they'll think that they're actually helping people, they're helping anything and everything there is. But the thing is, I don't personally believe it's possible to 100% help every single entity there is. If you direct help towards one entity, then there's going to be some damage that's going to be inflicted on some other entity. That's kind of like an inevitability. So that with that understanding, people can restrict, they can refine their actions to limit that.
Okay. Anyone else? Yeah.
There are 2 points. First one is a selfish point, which I'll ask about my parents, that if they're still alive, they should be fine.
If they're still alive, they should be fine.
They should be doing
What does that mean?
I mean, they should be doing well in their lives without any struggle.
They should do well in their life without any struggle.
Okay.
After you're gone Sunday night.
Yep. After
Okay.
I go. And second point is, I should be a better devotee next time, in next life, since I know that I'm not in this life. So,
Why not this one?
some time has been passed, which we couldn't get back.
Yeah, but in 48 hours you cannot be a good devotee.
At least the best. I cannot be the best.
But if you can ask for anything, why not ask for this life?
I didn't think of this.
You can ask for anything. Okay. Well, before I move on, anyone else? Krishna.
So since he's a divine personality, he can obviously take me anywhere in the world quickly. So I'll ask to go back home quickly.
Back to Zurich?
No. Bangalore. Say bye to my mother and my sister and her family. Or just say hi, rather than them getting the news 48 hours early. Then get an assurance or advice on how to spend the next 48 hours, so that I'll at least go back to Krishna. If I can't, I'll get a better life next time. And I want 6 prasadam meals. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, breakfast, lunch.
All in the same day? Oh, between the
Breakfast, 40 minutes. Yeah, that's...
You are greedy, man. So you want to travel to India, say hi to your mom and come back.
Yeah.
And sister too.
Same city.
Help yourself.
Sorry.
He's divine.
And then better life next time. Better life means instead of 6 prasadams you get what, 12?
Only prasadam.
Only prasadam. Sapadram. The purpose of exercise was to give an opportunity to look inside to see what's important in life for each of us. And interestingly enough, our contemplations our aspirations and meditation will be what we aspire for or what's important to us. True? And that's what takes us from one situation of life to another. That's what guides our activities. So, in the context of what we've been talking about this, pretty much this whole semester, I guess, we've talked about the relative realm and the absolute realm. Right? So as far as our considerations, our aspirations, what is important to us are within this realm. The solution is repetitive, or it is not satisfying, because the nature of relative realm is what is today will not be tomorrow. Changes, things change, constantly they change. And in the context of the language we've been using, this change happens because of the three modes of nature. Correct? We've talked about this. This is not new, I hope. Everyone with me? Yeah, there are yes or no. No is fine. Just say yes or no. Yeah, three modes of nature. So what it means is that there is no substantiality in the relative realm. It is also not truth. So Karnas, I want to know what is truth. There is something called truth in this realm, and there is something called truth in this realm. Capital T. This truth changes. What is true today may not be true tomorrow. Correct? Take anything. Take anything in this world, and we can discuss how it changes. So throw some random words about things that we'll see whether it's true today and not true tomorrow or future. Birth. Wealth. Good, birth also. Birth. Wealth. A person who's wealthy today may not be wealthy tomorrow. A person who's not wealthy today may be wealthy tomorrow. Well, by tomorrow I mean future. At some change of time, okay?
Fame.
Huh? Fame. Persons who are very famous don't remain famous anymore. Persons who don't know anything become famous and then again lose again in history. How many people in the world do we really know about? We know little. But we don't know about everyone who are really great. And some generations later, we don't even hear about them anymore. Strength changes.
What about the seasons?
Seasons. Yeah, very good. How about this?
Life.
Yeah, love, sight, life, vision, age,
Happiness.
true. Because in this relative realm, it's in the relative realm.
Yourself?
Very good. What do you mean self? Who was the self you're
The
talking about?
name, the memories, all that.
Then that's selfish.
Ego.
And then there is another self.
How to even
This
knowledge?
is called, huh? Who said something?
How to even knowledge?
Oh, yeah.
Science.
So I'm going to put false self. I'll explain it. And then there is the self. Okay. Say knowledge?
Yes. Science.
Science. Science is different from knowledge.
Yes. Okay, let's say science.
Science is in the
No.
relative realm. What we know today changes tomorrow.
Yes, it might change.
At one point in time, Earth was considered flat. Someone asked, who was asked? I forget this scientist.
Galileo.
Is the Earth
About
flat?
the Earth, yeah.
And he said, yes, wherever I'm walking, it's flat. That was a joke, huh? I think Aristotle, I can't remember who, but he said, yes, wherever I'm walking, it is flat. But there was the whole idea that Earth might be flat, this is right. But there were persons who said it's not flat. But our scientific conceptions change. Now we are all on the basis of atoms, and before that there are some other ideas, now there is something else. But still, science is different from truth. Science only gives us some element of relative truth, not absolute truth. Because the scientist himself is not there. Knowledge, there are different senses of knowledge. One is, we say knowledge in this world. Okay. Mostly this knowledge is a different form of literacy. But that's not knowledge. We defined at the beginning of this semester knowledge. Knowledge means to know things as they are. When you know something as it is, that is knowledge. But what we come across, what passes as knowledge, is what we call theory, what we call myth, not myth. It's usually, I'm going to use this phrase,
trial and error.
yeah, empirical. We take this to mean knowledge. Theory means I've come up with some dynamics of things, I see certain laws, but I have that valid only within this paradigm. If the conditions change, my theory changes. It's not relevant all the time, on all circumstances. Assumptions based. I start with certain assumptions and then I develop my idea of knowledge. If my assumptions change, my knowledge changes. Or empirical, meaning I conduct an experiment, I have some input, I have some output, I gather something, and I call that knowledge. As soon as my input changes, something happens in the experiment, I get wrong. Usually in educational institutions, well, first let's talk actual knowledge. So most knowledge we try to graph out, correct? You have input data. This is input. This is output. Correct? This is usually what knowledge is. So you have certain inputs and output, and then you try to fit a line. Correct? And I say, wow, now I have knowledge that this and this are related in a straight line. Right? Simple. But nowadays, what do we do? And then I conduct my experiment, and I take my marks. Because I'm already looking for this. And if I don't get it like this, the professor says, make sure it comes back to a line. Do something. Fix your experiment such that you get this line. True or not true? True. That's not quest for knowledge. It's the quest for publication. So knowledge means to know things as they are. So real knowledge belongs here. Because if things change, how can it be knowledge? Someone summarized knowledge in educational systems or in this relative realm as in 5 words. Information, information, information. No transformation. It doesn't change our heart when we get knowledge. It doesn't change anything for us. So now, going back to when our
Do you agree that knowledge also means power?
Explain yourself.
No, I'm just saying that once you know something, that gives you power in some certain level of your whatever you do in your life.
Is it knowledge powerful?
I think so.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
it is.
I think
Not
it
absolutely
is.
like this, but yes.
Yeah, I was just that was gonna be my next question. That
Power, yes.
knowledge being power, where does it belong? The absolute or the relative?
Depends what kind of knowledge. And it depends what you do with the knowledge. If it is knowledge, if it is scientific knowledge, let's say, right? I become powerful because, whoa. So that power is either that I become famous, or I become wealthy, or something like that. But if that's what I need, this power is being used for, then it's in the relative realm. But if power, in the sense that my knowledge is about either the self or the truth, you know how that power manifests in people who are aware of the self or have real knowledge or truth? How does that power manifest? It manifests in humility. This is the real power. It manifests as service to others. In this realm, not in this realm. There is also service here. Amina was talking about something. There's the idea of serving others in this realm, to want to make. But this is different from this one. This is real power. To be humble is not easy. Try it.
I'll also say wisdom.
Wisdom. Knowledge here. I like the way you say it. We can call this knowledge here and wisdom here if you like. Yeah, you tell me your name one more time.
Mohit.
Mohit, yes.
Basically, all the relative knowledge is basically definable knowledge, and absolute knowledge is not something we can define. Basically, if it's not changing, there's no beginning and end to it. Basically.
Define means you want to put boundaries. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, boundaries means can I put any boundary to absolute knowledge? No. So.
But it doesn't mean you cannot describe it. The fact that you say that it is boundaryless is a description.
Okay. But it's the most means can we go beyond the general description?
Yes.
No, right?
Yes.
Or the description requires some other means only. Like, can it be described in words more specifically?
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
We'll come to it. Right now we're only developing the foundation here. So please bear with me as we go through this. So the conclusion I want to draw from this is, if our inner core aspirations, our core, identity or things that drive us, is if it is here in this realm, and it can be any one of these or a mix of these, this is what is going to drive our life. This is what we'll think about. This is what we'll live for. And this is what we will die for. And the whole idea of spiritual life is, please don't operate in this realm. That's like the first lesson. Do not operate in this realm. If you operate in this realm, what you're working for will come to an end, and you have to restart from zero. For example, let's take wealth. Okay. If my aspiration is that I want to be rich, I I want to make money. Of course, none of us wrote down that I want to have money. Because deep down that may not be the most important thing. But guess what's driving our lives? On most days. Perhaps this. Perhaps this. I don't know. Perhaps this. We just found out. Definitely this one. Whatever. I'm just joking. But you get the idea? If it is any one of this is what will drive us. And that is not worth it because it's same thing repeated lifetime after lifetime.
Oh, I have a question.
For example, in this life, I'm in the search of scientific knowledge or knowledge. I work very hard. I go through school, college, graduate school, PhD. Right? And then Sunday night I die. And then I'm born again. Born again. Where do I start? Preschool. I don't start with PhD. Because I have to repeat it all over again. It's the same. Now I have to read, and this life I may not even make it to PhD. What is PhD? If you don't know, it's called permanent head damage.
That's right.
There's another one sitting right there. There's another one there. And they're all laughing about it.
And one back.
Oh, that one too? Jokes aside, I don't mean to belittle what you're doing. It's just little humor in the middle of things.
Are the relative truths to be seen as negatives or just not absolute truth?
Not absolute truth. Okay. So if this is what is going to cover, this is what's going to occupy our consciousness. The subtle work and the gross work, the actual work that we do, will be driven by the relative thing. And the relative things are, from a spiritual perspective, from an absolute perspective, not worth pursuing. Meaning not making this the main driver of life, because this is not what life's about. These things come and go anyway. Is that clear? This is like perhaps a paradigm change for most people. So I don't want to rush through it, I want to be sure. Because there's a natural question that might arise, and I'm going to ask you that question. Okay? So if we have an opportunity, a window of opportunity to know things, really, shouldn't they be from here? Because this is eternal, absolute, there's no change. What I know today may not be valid anymore. What's the use of pursuing something? If I have money, right? Nowadays, what is the meaning of wealth? What is the meaning of wealth nowadays? Stocks. Okay.
Flashy car, nice
Flashy
house.
car. Well, that's not wealth. Most of it is debt. But wealth, actually.
Products.
We look at even products. Most wealth in nowadays terms is digital information. Okay, there are a bunch of numbers in our bank account. Does anyone actually see that wealth in their hand? We call it liquid cash, meaning you can liquidate anytime. You can actually get that cash. Most people don't. It's numbers. And we don't see we don't see wealth in our hands. We don't transact with wealth. We transact with plastic cards. It's all we're doing is shifting some numbers from my account to your account. That's all we're doing. We're not really seeing any wealth transacting. In previous ages, people actually had gold coins, silver coins, that they would give each other and take from each other. They would have grains that they would give and take. That is wealth. Now it's plastic. And nowadays you don't even see plastic anymore. It's all iPhone. It's all vapor. You walk somewhere, you wave your iPhone, boom, you lost few numbers from here and someone else got some numbers. That's called wealth now. And we live on that wealth. I bought a house about 2003. That's about 9 years ago. Okay? And the funny thing was, naturally like anyone else, I had to take on a mortgage. And there was a long sheet of paper that showed this is the closing costs, this is the price of the house, some 200 and something $1,000. And next day, oh, you're the owner of this house. By the way, there was a bank that approved, now that you have a mortgage, you have a loan, now you're the owner of the house. I said, I never saw the money come to me. I never bought the house. All I was signed a paper, and now it's mine. This bank got numbers from 6 digits from this bank, and lo and behold, now this bank owns the house. And I'm paying each, and I work very hard. I know that when I get my pay stub, I only see things that have been deducted. At the end of it, it's like, oh, all that is remaining after all this work because I paid mortgage. I never saw wealth. We don't see it. You understand? So this wealth, the concept of wealth keeps changing. This is not what life's worth. There is something worth to pursue here. This is where things are about ourselves, because this keeps changing. We've talked about this, so this is not new. In this birth, I'm American, white, black, male, female, whatever that is. That's going to change. We start again. So why put effort, energy, so much aspiration into things that are transient? The real pursuit should be in things that are eternal, not transient. Substance. This is substance. This is just reflection. This is the real substance, actually. However you define it, some people say, well, is there, like Karna was saying, well, I'm not sure if there is God. I'm not sure if there is some. But that's all right. But find out. Putting energy, effort, enthusiasm, aspiration into finding out real things is far more valuable than finding out things that are not real. How do you find out that are not real? Because this all ends. All of this ends, isn't it? Yeah, hold on. Let me finish my sentence. As soon as a person dies, all of this ends for that person. Karna?
Yes, when you say find out, put time, put effort to find out about the real knowledge. Myself, I've been found out about the real knowledge, which I believe is spiritual. Okay, the real knowledge for me is spiritual, but I've been trying to find out, but it's full of deceptions. That
is correct.
That's like
Yeah, okay, good point. If I give you a whole case of rotten apples, correct? Suppose you buy a case of apples, and all of them turn out to be rotten. What are some of the conclusions that you come out with?
if you give me
Case, a box of rotten apples. Will you come out?
Never trust a case.
Never trust a case. Another is, from here on, I will never eat an apple. Because I got one case, 50 of them, all turned out to be rotten. Therefore, I will never eat an apple. Does that make sense? No. You will not. It's not that you will. Does it also? If there is a rotten apple, what does it tell you?
maybe the rest.
That there must be a genuine apple. That's what rotten means, right? If all apples were rotten,
It'll be good.
then there is no concept of genuine apple. That is what you will eat. Am I making sense? It's a little philosophical. You got the idea? If all apples were rotten, that's how they were created. There is no concept of good apple. That is what is good apple. A rotten apple would be good apple because that's all that's available. But when you see a rotten apple, that should tell you that there must be a genuine apple. You just haven't come across it, but there's a genuine apple. You buy another case, guess what? All of them turn out to be rotten. But there's still a genuine apple somewhere. You just haven't gotten it. Is that clear?
I understand. That's if you're patient to go find out.
Why patience is actually a virtue. It's a quality to have. Is there anything in life that comes without patience?
Downfall.
Is there anything in life we get without patience? You're doing PhD, right? Are you patient or not? You're patient of two types, right? Both at the hospital. You're patient and patient.
Like patience develop. It depends on what you like. If it is worth to go after it, like.
Very good point. When you're going after something relative, you cannot be patient. You know why? Because what you're standing on itself is changing. How can you be patient? This platform is changing all the time. How can you say I'll be patient? So when you pursue something in this realm, you can never develop patience. Because this is a transient phenomena. You cannot develop patience. Patience can only come when you're doing something more substantial. Those who pursue wealth, fame, they cannot be patient. Those who pursue actual qualities and virtue, they become patient because this is substantial, this is relative. I wish I can be more visual about it. Suppose building a house on water. It's not possible. Even if the house is floating, you feel it. And as soon as there's a wave, you move with it. Versus you go down to, you drill piles right into the bed of either the river or lake. Correct? As soon as you pile and put columns, who's the architects here? You guys have better terminology. Foundation. Into the river bed or lake bed. Even if there are waves, your house will not move. Correct? Because the bed is substantial. This is like that, transient. Same way, if we build our life on transient features, then we cannot be patient. We cannot build. We cannot develop those qualities. Okay? So, idea, spiritual life is our aspirations and contemplations, as long as they're here in this realm, they will change. They will be flickering, they'll be ephemeral. And therefore our mind also changes, it flickers, it's ephemeral. We cannot focus. So the mind needs a goal, something to focus on. And if what it is focusing on, the object itself is moving, or transient, or in flux, same word, same meaning, different words, our mind becomes restless, in flux. Make sense? Say it again. If I am trying to get my mind to focus on something, a goal, and the goal itself is in flux, then my mind is also in flux. True? So if my goals in life are somewhere here, these are all in flux. Therefore my mind becomes restless. And most people want a peaceful mind. Because when mind is peaceful, you can do many things. But what do we do in the name of living in this world is, I'm focusing on, let's say, happiness or fame. Mind is restless naturally because the whole idea of fame changes. So I focus on wealth, just to distract my mind here. From this changes, I distracted somewhere here, distracted to this, I distracted there. And all I'm doing is going from one situation to another situation, looking for the mind to be peaceful. The mind cannot be peaceful, but every one of this is in flux. Until we bring the mind to this realm, where we have an idea of self, the real self, the the real truth, real knowledge, etc. Then the mind becomes stable, because the goal is stable, the goal is fixed. So the whole idea of meditation comes from this concept. If this is clear, why and what to meditate on becomes clear. If that's not clear, then it's like, oh, Vedic Vision, one more guy came, he said meditate on this. I went to the Buddhist club and they said meditate on this. I went to the Tai Chi club, they said meditate on that, and it's all just different things. No, the real question to ask is the goal of meditation in this realm or this realm? You have a question? Now, based on the absolute realm, the real paradigms of meditation, what is it? What is that meditation on the absolute realm? And we talked about descending system of knowledge, ascending system of knowledge, right? So I'm just tying all of it together. How many of you were here for the descending system of knowledge? Yeah. So that's how you acquire it. Those who were not here, maybe videos of that? Okay. Then the mind has some goal to become peaceful. And by the way, the whole idea of meditation, just by definition or just by the word, meditation has something to do with the mind. You cannot meditate without the mind. There's nothing called mindless meditation, although that's what it sounds like most of the time. Meditation is a function of the mind, not a function of the body. You have to work with the body to allow the mind to meditate. Okay, sorry. You want to say something about this?
Just a question
regarding
the mind. What's the relationship between if meditation requires the mind, means is meditation like meditation is in order to get knowledge from the absolute? Yes.
Finish your sentence.
Yeah. No, it's just a question to follow.
Well, by definition, I'm not talking about this type of meditation or that type of meditation. By the meaning of the word, meditation is some focused contemplation. It can be on anything.
Okay. And if it's in relation to the absolute knowledge, then would the mind also have to exist in relation to the absolute
Correct.
knowledge?
Yes.
Okay. But then would that mind resemble the mind in the relative?
No.
Not okay.
Correct. No. The answer is no. So, why is the need for meditation? Regardless of why by nature we meditate on something, because that gives us a pathway to
Understanding.
act. We meditate about something so that we know what to do next. We consider, what should I do in life? Maybe this is the career path I should. That's called meditation. We're contemplating. And when we contemplate, it tells us what's the next action to take. True?
True. In that case, when you say meditation, you also relate the same thing as thinking.
Yeah.
When you give your
Focused
thoughts about
thinking.
something.
I don't want to get into this right now, but I'll say it. The whole idea in the functions of the mind, there is something called recall. Recall is suddenly I'm walking and I remember something. I recall something. I haven't tried it. On my own, there was no volition. It just came to me. That's called recalling. And there is something called remembrance. of my own volition, I try to recall or remember something. Right? This is passive, this is active. But in terms of time, how long does that thought last in the mind? If it's a recall. Like that, comes and goes. Remembrance, comes and goes. Correct? So we put in effort to remember this formula. It doesn't come. Okay, so from recall, remembrance, then there is called memory. It's there, accessible. I can go to it anytime I want, get things from it, like my name. It's in my memory. I just don't know. What's my name? Oh, okay. It's there. Then there is called contemplation. I take my mind to certain idea, person, thing, whatever, and I try to keep my mind on it.
Isn't that stage of contemplation where the power of your thoughts are?
No, because you'll find out anyone who tries to contemplate, there's for about a couple of seconds. If you're really good, a few seconds. Like we chanted Hare Krishna, right, before when we started, about 15 minutes. What percent of that 15 minutes were you actually remembering or focused on that mantra? Very little, actually. But this is called contemplate. We're trying to focus on a particular idea, theme, person, whatever. Higher than contemplation is we call meditation. Mind is fixed a little bit for about 4 seconds, maybe 5 seconds, minute at the most. This is not scientific. I'm just throwing out certain numbers. Get the idea. You can keep our mind. Most normal people cannot keep their mind on anything for more than 5 seconds. Mind's too restless. Why? This is operating here. You asked, right? This mind and that mind. It's operating here. And this is a very highly fluctuating, these 3 modes of nature, these are constantly feeding this whole thing. So you cannot think of anything more than 5 seconds. Try. It's not possible. If you try really hard, fall asleep. Huh? It's true. You fall asleep.
How about meditating when you are in pain, like physical pain?
Right.
That's really hard too, right?
That is true. Why? Because it comes down to this idea of self. Oh, my body is hurting. My leg. Oh, because we are operating here.
But still, there are people who can do that, and
There are people who operate here. Their body is suffering like anything, but it doesn't matter to them. Their mind's fixed. There are many cases like that. Because they're operating on this self. Actually, it is said, whenever there is physical pain, if you actually meditate that I am not this body, I am soul, I am a spiritual being, and this body is just a covering, it is said that you don't feel the pain. You can transcend the pain. But the mind says, oh, who says, man, it's hurting like anything. From meditation comes absorption. The mind's fixed on this. Complete. In Sanskrit, there are different names for it. Like that. Have you ever heard the term samadhi? Most people in India, when you say samadhi, they're dead and gone. That's what they say. Oh, samadhi. Samadhi means full, complete absorption without the mind moving from that Dhi comes from the mind, dhyana. Sama means complete or total. So there are words called dhyana. Dhyana means meditation. Higher than dhyana is called dharana. And higher than that is called samadhi. So these are stages of taking the mind. But if our life is all about these, we cannot go to samadhi. Unless we bring our mind to cultivate on these things. This is the real area of dhyana and samadhi. So tomorrow you go somewhere, they say, oh, we're having, whoever says, we're having a meditation session. You say, oh yeah, I know meditation. Alright, meditate on what? That's the first question you should ask. Meditate on what? Nothing. So what do you get out of it? You get what you meditate on, right? You get nothing. If you meditate on nothing, you get nothing. Better to meditate on little money. That's something useful. So the idea is to take the mind from here, from this well, all the way to this well. So when we chant Hare Krishna, we're beginning here, perhaps, some recall. And we have to keep telling our mind, no, come back to the sound of the name. And with practice, now for practice, there are other aspects of life that need to be in place, so this practice is possible. For example, if you had 4 beers before you came to this session, and you sit down for chanting Hare Krishna, I mean, it will be samadhi. You understand? Certain things in life, they affect our mind and consciousness. So how we live determines how we will remember things or where our mind will go. And if we are bothered by money, loans, all that, then the mind is stuck in that, agitated. So you have to bring it to, give it a goal that is stable, then it will move. It requires practice. Karna and then you.
In the samadhi, when you separate your mind or your spirit from your body, the samadhi, is it when you separate your spirit from your body?
What do you mean separate?
Oh, like sometimes you meditate, okay, maybe not for certain practice. When people are meditating, they can easily separate the spirit. Like they can be here, but they go somewhere else. The spirit.
That is one of the perfections. Yes, it is possible.
But like, is there a danger when you're doing that? Because when you, I believe, that's what I think. I believe when you separate your spirit from your body, like your body becomes very weak, and it's like there's an empty space on yourself. Any other bad spirit can come.
You're expert in voodoo, so you're asking these questions. So why?
I'm doing what?
You said you know voodoo and something.
Yes, I do know voodoo.
Now, when we sleep at night, guess what happens? Our mind travels. Our subtle body travels and the gross body is still sleeping there. For example, can we go to, pick a nice place in the world?
Hawaii.
Meena.
Malaysia.
Malaysia. We can all go to Malaysia if we close our eyes and go to Malaysia. Our mind has gone to Malaysia, actually. We can live in a hotel, we can live in the Ritz, we don't have to pay for it, because the mind can travel. By thought, it can travel. The body doesn't follow suit the same way. When we dream, we travel. But being conscious and letting the mind travel is different. That's perfect. It's a particular yogic capacity. But you have to come back to what's the purpose. If the purpose is not clear, then I can do anything with it. Right? I can spook someone, I can do other things. I can just travel and show off, but that's not the reason we're doing it. Samadhi is not for playing around with. When you come to Samadhi, there are other things you get, right? This knowledge is clear. I don't know why I keep thinking your name is Robert.
Uh,
The fifth time I'm asking you your name. Usually I'm good with names.
okay. Should I
Mohit.
repeat it? Yes, fine. I just had a question relating when you took the example of meditating on nothing, and hence the result is nothing. Now, let's say somebody says, I want to meditate on Krishna, something like that. Still, like, regardless of whether, the Krishna, the word Krishna is a representation for this undefinable concept, right? Not undefinable, sorry, this infinite parameter type of concept.
No, Krishna is the name of a person.
But then it's a person, so the person is a thing that's within boundaries.
No, not Krishna.
See,
That which is eternal is not bounded. Our idea of boundary is from matter.
but then how can, like, the idea of a person with certain features, a personality, which person being a personality, would be something that's limited, yes.
True if the personality is material. If the idea of our concept of body is material and so it's limited. It's boundary. It has boundaries.
Then,
But if it is a spiritual form, it's a form but without boundaries.
but then if, let's say if I just sit down to contemplate on Krishna, this idea of this unbounded personality, basically. Now, like, in my mind, I can't conceive of...
Not yet. If you
Yeah.
just in 30 seconds, you can't. But
Okay.
with practice, you can.
No, but will I even reach the point
Sure.
if I can? No, means if I'm meditating on my idea of it, which no matter what I try...
So for that, you have to go back to the descending system of knowledge. It's not that your own idea. You don't. Meditation is not a imaginative sport. You have to have a concept. An idea has to be given.
But
Knowledge is descending.
But even that will be conceived in a limited way.
No, not necessary. Descending knowledge is not conceived in a limited way because the source is not from a limited source.
So then, are you saying that basically whatever conception we have, it will keep on changing into more and more?
If a
unlimited,
conception
or what?
we have about something that is sourced from my own idea, then yes, it will transform, or we will not even get to the reality. We will not get to the actual reality. But if the actual reality is already given, that this is how it is, and we work on that, then it's called realize the reality. I'd like to pause here, because and then just let this sit, because this is this forms the foundation for why we chant Hare Krishna. This forms the foundation for what is meditation, what are the other modalities or methods of meditation. If this is not clear, meditation will not be clear. So I wanted to spend time on this.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
Okay, so going back to your example on the house,
Can you start serving lunch?
the house built on waves, and if you put piles,
No, I said if you put a house on the waves,
Yeah.
it's not stable.
It's not
Unless you go down to the substance.
okay. So looking at it in the reverse order, so if your foundation is great, the house is also stable. Looking at it that way. So if you meditate and you focus your life on the absolute, these things, what happens to them? Are they taken care of, or does your...
These things occupy a position or a place in life to the degree that they are actually important.
Okay.
Usually these things take on a position greater than their importance. Because knowledge means to see things as they are. So you will start seeing things as they are. My shoes are important to me, but I don't take this and, put it on my head, pray to it, meditate on it, eat. I don't do those things. It has its place. And then it's outside the house. And that's how I use them. You understand? I don't take my shoe to be, something else. So wealth has its place, family has its place, fame, money, knowledge has its place. But it's right place. Right now we have all of this and it's wrong. It's all jumbled.
I was also thinking about patience. When you mentioned patience, the difference between the two realms.
Yeah, you should do PhD.
No. So patience, but people are impatient in the relative realm. People are impatient in the relative realm because they have less time to actually get what they want and enjoy it and finish up.
Yeah. Not
But-
only less time, but first of all, whatever they are pursuing, that also changes.
But over there, can it be justified by saying it's carried over on births? That's why patience.
That is correct.